Hello students, welcome to the EPG Pathshala. I am Renu Arora, former Head Education and Training Division, CSIR, NISCARE, New Delhi. Today I am going to talk about the module Information Sources, Concept and Need for Information. This is from the paper Information Sources, Systems and Services. In this module, we will learn the concept and need for information for users of library and information organizations, information in its various forms, for example, books, journals, newsletters, databases, reports, etc. Information is a valuable resource for the whole society, so much so that it is aptly said that information is the lifeblood of the modern society. After studying this module, you will be able to get an overview of the nature, definition and concept of information, understand need for information, identify types of information sources best suited for specific information needs, differentiate between sources and resources of information, know the characteristics of information sources, identify documentary and non-documentary sources, and lastly, list the various kinds of information sources. We will begin the module by talking about what is data, information and knowledge. Usually, we talk all about these terms interchangeably. Whenever we have to say what is information, we refer to it as data or many times as knowledge. But in fact, all the three are different from each other. Data is raw facts that represent things or events that have happened. Information, on the other hand, is a product of data processing and is data that has been given meaning by way of relational connection. And lastly, let's know what is information. Data and information deal with facts and figures and knowing what to do with them, and then what to do with them requires knowledge. So therefore, we can say that knowledge is emerging from data and information. And in other words, when information is packaged or used for understanding or doing something, it is known as knowledge. So it is very clear that data, information and knowledge are three separate terms and three different aspects. This figure shows the relationship between data, information and knowledge. We have already understood what is data, what is information and how these two lead to what is knowledge all about. As we can see in this figure, data gets converted into information and from information it leads to knowledge. And from this we can conclude that data refers to raw values relating to facts, events or transactions. Information is processed data which has meaning and context, and knowledge is the use of information in a context to make decisions. In fact, when we just say some figure 2, 3, 4, it has no meaning. But the moment we say that it is age of some students, then it becomes a piece of information. And when the age of the students is applied for some useful purpose, it becomes a piece of knowledge. Let's understand the value of information in the context of information sources. As everyone is aware that in the modern society, value of information is considered to be of high value in the sense that information has plenty of value for any kind of user. For all our activities, we need information. So in this context, information is considered as a valuable commodity because it allows information organizations to plan how to carry out their activities more effectively. For example, libraries can acquire and stock whatever their users want. when they want and can anticipate the demands of the users. Information activities can be targeted at users that the organizations know could be interested in their products and services. Actually, if information organizers are telling their users what is available, the users will definitely contact them and come to them for their products and services. This can lead to increased user satisfaction and therefore lead to complete utilization of information resources and sources. So, information has lot of value in the sense that various activities for various information requirements, we need information to carry out our work for research, etc. So, information has tremendous value. Let us now understand what is information in the context of this particular module. In fact, there are many definitions of information drawn from various sources or given by various experts. In fact, there are too many formal definitions of information, but none has universal acceptability. This is so because the term information is used differently in different contexts by different experts. In the context of information sources, some definitions of information are: information is the act of telling or imparting knowledge. Information is facts communicated or learned. Information is interpreting data to make it useful. Information is knowledge acquired from others. Information is all about facts and figures. Information is the lifeblood of society of the 21st century. Information is power. Now, if we examine all these definitions of information, we can find that, or we can understand that each one has certain importance. So, for our purpose, we may combine some of these definitions, or we may pick up whatever is relevant in our context. Let's understand the characteristics of information. Information has many characteristics. The first one is timeliness. This refers to the very fact that information should be supplied to whosoever requires in a very timely manner. If on time information is not provided, it loses its value. Besides that, whenever information is required, it should be made available immediately. Secondly, accuracy. The exact information has value. Otherwise, if information is not accurate, it's not correct, then it has no value or no relevance for the user. Thirdly, relevance. Relevance refers to the context for which a user wants the information. Many times, same information may be relevant to a lot of people, or particular information may be relevant to a particular context. So, this aspect has to be taken into consideration. Fourthly, adequacy. Adequacy is that the quantity of information that has to be supplied should depend on the level of the user. If too much information is given to a person who wants only some basic information, then it is having no value. And if too little information is given to an expert, again it is of no use for the expert. So, quantity of information should be adequate. Fifthly, completeness. Whatever information is provided or made available should be complete in all aspects. Next is explicitness. Explicitness information is said to be of good quality if this does not require further analysis by the recipients for carrying out their activities. Next is impartiality. When information is provided, it should not be of any relevance to any other persons. It should be completely impartial of race, creed, caste, etc. And lastly, worth its cost. Worth its cost refers to the fact that value, total value for money has to be there for whatever information is available, because these days for asking for information or providing for information, it does cost, so it should be worth its cost. Information age. In the information age, the information professionals are involved in the creation, classification, distribution, and application of information. There is visible teamwork, interconnection, and shared information. The technological advances of the information age have made it easier for us to access the desired information from various information sources. In the information age, we can classify information on the basis of, firstly, source. That means from where the information has emerged. Secondly, nature. Nature is what kind of information is it. Thirdly, level. That is the level of the individual who requires information or level of the individual who has produced information. Fourthly, time. Time plays a very important role when we are classifying information, because outdated information has no value. Besides this, whenever some expert or some scientist wants a piece of information, it should be provided on time. Fifth one is frequency. Frequency is with which the information is being produced. Depending on the subject and the topic, we can take into account the frequency of information. Then next one is use. Use is again a very important factor while classifying information, because depending on the users, the level of users, the information has to be produced, processed, classified, etc. Next one is form. Form is in which shape it is to be made available. Verbal or written information, or by electronic media, in print form or non-print form, etc. And lastly, type of information. It is of documentary type or non-documentary type, etc. Information need. Information need is defined as a state or process when one perceives that there is a gap between the information and knowledge available to solve a problem and the actual solution of the problem. Information need is different from information competencies, as information competencies are defined as the capabilities developed to reach the solution of a problem by searching for new information or knowledge that could fill the perceived gap. And information need is very much dependent on what the users require. Besides that, when we talk about information need, it could be something that we presume user might need. So in that case, we have to make ready the sources accordingly. Or information need could be that user demands for certain kind of information. So there we have to respond to the user or the user's information need. As already informed, information is of tremendous value to all the users. In this context, let's now examine what are the likely information needs the users may have. In fact, information needs of users may relate to several aspects. For example, news could be of value to a lot of users. Nowadays, there are so many channels of providing news. News is available from the media, from the TV, that is the broadcasting media, and also from the internet. So, news can be of interest to a large number of users. Besides that, ideas and opinions. Ideas and opinions can also be got from the broadcasting media or from discussions with peers or other people. Besides that, the research results. In fact, it is the academic users or scientists and researchers and the student community, they are interested in the research results. Research results are available usually in documentary and non-documentary sources of information. Scientific journals or other kinds of research journals make available the research results. Besides that, through the web also research results can be made available. In addition to that, routine information is of value to a large number of users. Routine information could be like railway timetable, telephone numbers of certain prominent people, maps, that is location of different places, talking about routes, or it can also be tourism places, etc. This could be of interest to a large number of people. Besides that, history or background information. Again, this is something which is of value to the researchers or academic people or anyone going in for further study in a particular topic. So for history or background information, lot of research has to be carried out. So this can be looked through the encyclopedias, etc. Then facts and figures is again of tremendous value to a large number of people. Facts about what has taken place and figures, for example, everyone wants to know about the day temperature in certain seasons in the last few years or so. And besides that, figures may be with regard to matches or etc. Then technical information. Lot of engineering, technical people, etc. They might be interested in technical information. And lastly, the legal information may be of very importance to a large number of people. So information needs of users in this connection are varied and they may relate to a large number of aspects. Let's now understand what is an information source. Information source is a place or person from which we can obtain something useful or valuable. Besides this, the sources from where we get information are called information sources, and these comprise of documents, humans, institutions, as well as mass media like radio, television, internet, etc. Information sources are significant for information organizations and information users. Besides this, information sources are different from reference sources and information resources. An information source, therefore, is one which provides us the required or the desired information, whereas reference sources are used to obtain specific type of information which is compiled specifically and designed to provide information in a most convenient form. So, an information source thus is the source from where we get information. It deals with documents and non-documents. Information sources are also different from information resources. Information resource. We have already discussed what is an information source, and as already mentioned, an information resource is different from an information source. In fact, a resource is something that can be used to perform some function. An information resource is not the same as a source and is defined as a resource which can convey or describe essential characteristics of a resource in some way. The data and information assets of an organization are referred to as information resources. Information and related resources such as personnel, equipment, and information technology are also information resources of an organization. Good research involves using a variety of reliable information resources to find out facts and information about a topic. There are experts who refer to some information sources as information resources. Examples of such information resources are encyclopedias, books, articles, and websites. But otherwise, we usually talk about encyclopedias, books, etc. as information sources and categorize them according to some particular order. Let's now discuss about information overload. In fact, information overload is something which has been bothering most of us in the present day context. It refers to the very fact that there is too much of information available on a particular topic or various topics. In fact, it is due to the so much of publication activity and easy access that we have access to huge amount of data and information. So this creates a situation which is referred to as information overload. When there is information overload, users will firstly have too much of access to information and on a desired topic, and many of the users, they don't want so much information and they only want a small portion of the desired information. So they are actually overloaded with information. This situation is referred to as information overload. Then besides that, information users, they will receive so much of information on a topic, and the fact is that too much information comes so fast that it becomes a liability instead of an asset, because it is a known fact that too much of everything is also bad. So restricted amount of information, pinpointed information, information in right quantities at a right time is what is the need. So overload of information here is a real concern. Then besides that, information users, they have little control over information as quality becomes dubious at times, because when too much of information is dumped on a user, obviously the quality is not taken into consideration. Besides this, when users cannot keep pace with the available information flow, they feel that they are lacking in their skills. Many times, many users feel that they are behind in whatever is happening in their field. They cannot keep pace with the advancements in their own field due to too much of overflow of information. And lastly, it is due to the technological changes. The technology is changing so fast that it quickly becomes obsolete, and users cannot afford to change the technologies often. For example, if we have acquired a computer system and we have access to various databases, etc., and suddenly the technologies have changed, and it becomes very difficult to change all this overnight or even like after a certain period of time. So this also leads to the situation of information overload. So this has to be avoided. And in the context of information sources, information overload is a big problem for a large number of users. So we have to take care of providing such sources to the users that they don't feel that they are overloaded with information. Let's now understand characteristics of information sources. Information sources have several characteristics which include availability. Here, the information source has to be available as and when desired by the users. Secondly, the cost. Cost of the information source should be affordable to the user or to the organization which is trying to acquire it. If too much cost is placed on the information source, it will be beyond the means of most of the smaller libraries, so it will have no value. Thirdly, currency of information. Whatever source is made available, it should contain the latest information. So updation on a regular basis of the information sources is required. Then fourthly, amount of detail, that is the depth in which treatment to the topic has been given. Fifthly, breadth of the coverage. The coverage should be provided in all possible manners in the information source. Next one is reliability. As far as the information contained in the source is concerned, it should be totally reliable, and if possible, the authors of the information source should also provide proper references or the source from where the information has been taken. Then next one is the format. Format should be convenient for the users. If the users want only the printed format, then it should be available in print format, but if users want electronic format, then it should be made available in the electronic format as well. Then lastly, the medium, that is, the language could be a medium, or it should be print or non-print, etc. So these characteristics of information sources have to be taken into consideration while preparing the information source. Let's now examine characteristics of information sources on the basis of available information. It could be factual or analytical, objective or subjective, primary or secondary. The factual information is a statement that can be proved. For example, 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. It is also information that will always remain the same, and no matter where you look up, it will remain the same. For example, reference sources, printed or electronic, such as dictionaries, almanacs, atlases, directories, etc. Then the analytical information. Analytical information is an interpretation of factual information. It includes interpretation or analysis of facts, often made by experts. For example, we see books, periodical articles, web pages. These contain analytical information. The objective information consists of non-judgmental or balanced reporting that presents all sides of a topic, including basic facts. For example, encyclopedias or handbooks. These can be in books, in articles or web pages, but the source must be carefully evaluated first. Regarding the subjective information, it means that only one point of view is represented. It expresses opinions or judgments which are based on individuals' personal expression on a topic rather than external factors. For example, books published on basis of individual authors' experience, research results of viewpoints, etc. Then the primary information, it represents information in its original form. It has not been edited, interpreted, evaluated, or translated in any manner, which might result in a change from the original information, hence the name primary information. Examples are novels, poems, patents, other documents, diaries, government documents, etc. And lastly, the secondary information. This is information removed in some way from its original form. It represents restatements, interpretations of the original, translation, or analysis of information from one or more primary sources. Examples are scholarly or popular books and articles, reference books and textbooks, etc. Now we come to types of information sources. In modern times, information sources have been divided into three categories, or we can say there are three types of information sources. These can be published or unpublished, in print or in electronic form, and all recorded sources of information, irrespective of their content and form, usually come under documentary sources. So, documentary sources therefore forms the first type or the first category of information sources. The documentary sources can be categorized as primary, secondary, and tertiary sources on the basis of appearance of information. In primary sources, information appears first, secondary sources comes out next, and tertiary sources are the last to appear. The second category of information sources is non-documentary sources. The non-documentary sources of information can be defined as those sources and resources of information that are not contained in any document. The non-documentary sources comprise of formal and informal sources. The third category that has come up in the present times in the electronic environment is the electronic sources, also referred to as e-sources or e-resources. So an electronic source is material which requires computer mediation in order to access its contents and make it useful. Both online and offline resources such as online material and CD-ROMs or DVDs etc. fall within the scope of e-resources. In this module, we will further discuss the different types of information sources. Documentary sources. We can categorize documentary sources as primary, secondary, and tertiary. As you can see in this figure, the categorization is given and all the three levels are considered to be at par with each other. Research is based initially on the analysis of primary sources, guided by the perspectives on the topic which already existed via secondary sources, and the tertiary sources only provide a general overview of the topic. In fact, when we want to look for certain piece of information, usually we go the other way around. That is, we start from a tertiary source. From the tertiary source, we try to find out the relevant listed secondary sources. Then, when we go to the secondary source will provide information about the available primary sources of information on the topic, and it is the primary source of information that will give the desired information on the certain topic. Non-documentary sources of information. As you can see in the figure, non-documentary sources of information can be categorized as institutions or organizations, humans, mass media, internet. The organizations as sources of information include academic institutions, government ministries and departments, research and development organizations, societies, publishing houses, international and national agencies, etc. The human resources are usually the experts, consultants, resource persons, extension workers, and even the common human beings. Mass media refers to any means of public communication that can reach a large audience. Examples of the mass media include the internet, television, and radio. Magazines and newspapers are also considered to be mass media. Internet is another very important source of information. Internet is interactive digital media and is different from the traditional media such as print and television. World Wide Web, that is WWW, also called the web, is collection of websites on the internet and offers information on almost all the topics. The other details of non-documentary sources will be covered in the module on non-documentary sources. Let's understand about electronic sources of information. Electronic sources of information are available as electronic books or popularly referred to as e-books. These are just like the printed books but available in e-format. Then there are the online journals or e-journals or electronic journals. These are also like the printed journals, but only thing is that these are available on your computer screen, etc., and available through the internet. there are web pages, which is again an electronic source. Then there are full text databases and also other listing of databases. Then there are CD-ROMs, again these are electronic sources, and then there are DVDs, online in full text, and online public access catalogs, popularly referred to as OPACs. Managing a collection of electronic information resources is quite different from managing a collection of non-electronic information sources. Unlike a book, computer equipment and networks are needed to access electronic information. Digital format of traditional information sources is available as print format, books, periodical articles, pamphlets, dissertations and theses, maps, government documents, etc., printed references, and library catalogs. In fact, here the libraries provide a number of tools to identify specific sources of information. These are referred to as information access tools. These are known as access tools and they fall into various categories. The three broad categories of access tools usually used to find the desired information sources are library catalogs, printed indexes and databases, web indexes, and search engines. The strategies for locating specific information sources vary depending on the access tools needed to find them. Generally, we may need to use more than one access tool because well-balanced information activities usually require information from various kinds of sources. The information access tools either directly provide access to the information sources that a user needs or provides information directly to help find a source. In this figure, you can see the relation between information, information sources and information access tools. As you can see here, we begin with information. There is many kinds of information and it could be facts, popular opinion, biographies, research, product information, etc. This information is found contained in information sources. Information sources are books, journals, encyclopedias, databases, directories, etc. And the information resources are located using the information access tools. The information access tools are catalogs, indexes, web, etc., among other kind of access tools. So we find different kinds of information in different types of information sources. For example, research related information is most likely to be found in scholarly journals. Different types of information sources use different access tools to locate the information source. For example, journal articles are located by using indexes and databases. Lastly, we come to identifying appropriate information sources. Many kinds of information is found in more than one type of source. To help determine which type of source is most likely to contain the information a user requires, the following questions are required to be asked. Firstly, how broad or narrow a focus is needed. Here we are looking for a broad overview of a topic, or we don't need highly specific information that covers a narrow topic in great detail. Encyclopedia articles will give a broad view of the topic. Books will also give a broad view of the topic but in considerably greater detail and may summarize the published information on required topic. Journal articles usually give very specific aspects of the topic. Often we will need a mixture of encyclopedias, books, and periodical articles to find the desired information. Second question that needs to be asked is what level of information is needed? Do we need in-depth research by an expert in the field, or do we require information written in common terms? If we need in-depth research or technical information, we have to select scholarly journals. If journal information on a topic is required, then an article written for the educated laypersons in substantial news or general interest publications, etc., can be used. Third question is how current does the information need to be? Here we are researching a current topic, or is the information we need several years or even decades old? Currency can be a deciding factor in determining or identifying the best possible source for information. We can think of currency as a continuum with different types of information sources falling at different points in the continuum. For example, for 1 week old information, look for websites, newspapers, etc. For month old information, look for monthly journals. And year-old information can be found in yearbooks, almanacs. And for older information, we may look for books, encyclopedias, annual reviews, etc. The fourth question that needs to be asked is, do we need specialized information? Yes, at times we do need specialized information such as statistics, maps or diagrams or address for people or the manufacturer of a product. These special kinds of factual information is most often found in atlases, yearbooks, almanacs, directories, or government documents. A factual information can change rapidly. We have to pay close attention to the publication date. And last question to be asked here is, do we need primary, secondary, or tertiary information? Sometimes we need information that is only available from the original, that is the primary source. Many times secondary materials are raw data and primary sources are which have been analyzed and organized into proper manner. Tertiary information is many times a commentary or opinion about a given topic based on or quoting primary and secondary source. So we have to see what kind of topic is under consideration. So in this module, we have discussed about the information sources, their needs, why we have to avoid information overload, etc. So in the end, we will see what we have discussed in this module. We have discussed the nature, definition, and concept of information. Information sources can be documentary, non-documentary, and electronic sources of information. Many kinds of information are found in more than one type of source. Libraries provide a number of tools to identify specific sources of information. Thank you.